Hello, my name is Kaustubha, I work at Tattle, and today I'm going to talk about some challenges in the Fediverse. Before I get into that, I'll briefly walk you through what the Fediverse is. How many of you can recognize what these logos stand for? Okay. This is good. There's a fair few who understand what these platforms are. They're all decentralized platforms. So quickly, a distinction between centralized and decentralized platforms. Centralized platforms are like your Instagram. This is Meta. It controls all of the activity that happens on Instagram, what kind of content is permissible, what isn't, what's prohibited. So they make all of the decisions on what happens on Instagram. With Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon, it's a bit different. So there's all of these different interconnected nodes, and it's more of a local unit governance in the sense that each node here will decide what kind of rules apply to them, how they want to govern that little unit or group of people who will join that unit. So as a user, you join different servers or instances. They're like little groups that are a gateway into the whole like decentralized universe of platforms. To moderate content on these centralized platforms, you have moderators and server admins who make decisions on what kind of content is being posted, who's posting and who's joining these servers, and so on. So each instance or server has its own specific rules that apply to it. One of the benefits of this is that there's interoperability in that even amongst a decentralized platform, even if you're part of one instance, you still see what's happening on other servers and instances. And you can also see what's happening on other decentralized platforms. So you can be on Blue Sky, but if it's federated with, say, Mastodon, then you can see all of the content that's on Mastodon as well. So that's one way you distinguish between a centralized and a decentralized platform. So moderators or admins moderate on two levels. This was found in a report on Fediverse governance by Erin Kasani and Darius Kazemi, where they found that moderators moderate on two levels. First is actually account registration. So when you join Mastodon, for instance, it will show you a list of servers you can join or groups. So when you select a server, it could be that it's a closed one, and there are certain criteria that you need to fulfill, and then they'll accept you. So that's how they filter the kind of people that can come into these servers and be part of their network of instances. The second is policies again, kind of similar to centralized platforms, but apply only to the local units. So they have a general list of policies and guidelines about how content can be communicated between users on these instances, what's prohibited, what's not. It was also found that vibes do matter a lot. A lot of the moderators care about the kind of community that's being built within these instances. So they do all of these filters to ensure that you retain that sense of maybe safety, security, or just general vibes. So there are quite a few challenges with decentralized platforms and moderation. The first is that you can't really compare them to Instagram or Threads or other centralized platforms. They don't have as much funding as yet. They don't have as many resources. The moderators and servers were found to be a bit overburdened with the kind of work that they do. And there's also this challenge that comes in when there are different local units with their own sets of rules and policies, when sometimes maybe they just don't translate into another. Maybe I'm on an instance where we're all very serious about rock music. We can't tolerate dissing one band maybe, and the other band does that. And you still see what's happening, but you can't do anything about it. As a moderator of an instance, I only can cover what's happening in my instance. I can't tell people on another instance what to do and what not to do. So that is one challenge. And another from, say, as somebody who maybe encounters abuse, it's challenging for me to report this content. If you see any of these decentralized platforms, they actually still don't have structured or comprehensive policies about reporting on these platforms and how do you tackle content that is not great. So there is variation across this because it's also localized. Each instance could have different ways of reporting mechanisms, and even across platforms it'll vary. Which brings us to a very specific issue, which is cross-platform abuse. Generally, cross-platform abuse originated from a lot of journalists and other women journalists on the internet who talked about how they were targets of abuse across platforms. So you report something that people don't like, there's a coordinated set of groups acting across platforms, abusing you, posting disparaging comments about you. And as somebody who's the subject of that, you have to report on each and every platform over and over till that content is actioned upon. So it started from cross-platform harassment, and so it could be between centralized platforms, but it could also happen across instances or across the local units of decentralized platforms as well. So this could be a form of, say, cross-instance abuse. And it sort of simulates the same kind of experience that you would have while reporting on multiple platforms, but you're also doing it within servers as well. So I think there are different ways that we can support the decentralized platform universe, because there are so many benefits to it. There is interoperability, there's also more user agency, and you're not relying on one very dominant personality telling you what kind of activity rules on a platform or not. You're still able to create levels of governance. Maybe your one instance can be very strict about the kind of audience they want. Maybe they want to protect more of the people within their groups. And these can be groups who face disproportionate levels of harassment and abuse online. And it's a way to safeguard them, even if, say, 5 other instances are very open about what kind of content flies on there. So federation has a lot of benefits to it. Even then, we do see some limitations with cross-platform abuse, which is where we can think about things like signal sharing or building protocols that would ease this reporting process and make sure that maybe if I report on one instance and it's a very common, very obvious form of abuse that just won't fly anywhere, then that kind of signal is shared to other instances as well. And it's not as burdensome on me as someone who's a subject to it to have to be so proactive and try to get redressal for this kind of abuse. And this has taken place with the Lantern program, where centralized platforms came together for more harmful and extreme form of abuse, which is like CSAM and exploitation and things like that, where they agreed to share these signals amongst each other to prevent that content from proliferating uncontrollably. So there are lessons that we can take from this that could be applied for federation as well. In terms of tooling, there's been some interesting research where 2 tools were proposed. The first is one which proposes that it would highlight certain instances where there's a lot of abusive activity. So it makes it easier for moderators, for instance, to focus on those kinds of instances and try to redress harms that are happening specifically there. And the second is called ModPair, which is kind of like a sharing mechanism, and it enables automated detection of toxicity on these instances. The last 2 points are really about how we need to develop reporting protocols to reduce the burden and reduce how overwhelmed you get when you're subject to abuse. And the last is that we should have some sort of framework, even if we don't impose certain kinds of guidelines or policies on each instance. Maybe we have a framework that's a guidance for moderators on instances, so you're not really taking away federation or the freedom that applies to each instance, but you're also ensuring that they have a reference point and moderators or server admins aren't left alone. This is something that we have been working and thinking about as a team, and we'd really love to hear from everybody else as well about your thoughts, and if there's anything that you believe we could do to improve how communication takes place on decentralized platforms, because they are a really promising form of alternative to centralization and the issues that we're all facing. So do reach out, and thank you so much. We're all very excited you all came here today.